Well, howdy. Today we're taking a look at my Eddystone model of 1917. It was produced, let's see if the barrel markings will show up in this light, in 1918. It's very good shape for being 93 years old. I do believe the stock has been sanded. The majority of the proof marks have been sanded off. The one there at the end cap is still there. The government proof mark, unfortunately, seems to have been lost. It just may be a very light stamping, but I believe it has been sanded off. A lot of the other numbers are still there, but it shows signs of having been sanded after being prepared. It's in very, very nice shape, to say the least, for being 93 years old. The bluing is in very good shape. It's all numbers matching. They all match everywhere. Everything is Eddystone in this gun. I believe the only thing that's actually Remington, let me take that back, the only thing that's Remington is the actual stock. The butt stock is Remington, but I think that's normal for these Eddystone rifles. I love the sights on this gun. You can see why we finally adopted a rear-mounted wing-protected sight on the Garand. They're not adjustable for windage, however, which is one of the minor issues. Well, 1919 is a major issue, but this is one of the issues why it wasn't adopted as a service rifle, along with a prevalent, it wasn't made here attitude at that time. The rifle's very accurate, but compared to a Springfield from a similar era, it is probably about 2 pounds heavier. Springfield's about 8 pounds, maybe slightly more, a few ounces given wood density and whatnot. Enfield, or maybe phrase that, the model 1917 is about 9 to 10 pounds. Nice gun. I love it. Very steady, very stable shooter. Absolutely. I think these are probably very underrated for what they are. I mean, these guns right now are still a bargain, considering the history that went into them. I know there's a lot of arguments on whether Alvin York used a model 1917 or a model 1903, but considering that he was in the AEF and that 3/4 of American soldiers at the time were issued a 1917, in all likelihood he had a 1917, but he probably may have traded away for a 1903. It's a fine rifle. The windage is probably the only thing that I would have a problem with, but if you're in a trench, you're probably not going to have the time to adjust the windage in the first damn place. At Camp Perry in 1919, when they were forced to use these instead of the 1903, in a way as an informal test, competitors complained and whined, and, well, very similar, I guess, to modern shooters. They were still pretty picky back then. They despised this rifle, could not stand it, and a lot of it may have had to do with it being originally a British design from the pattern evolved from the pattern 1914 British rifle, and before that the pattern of 1913. In my opinion, it's a fine rifle. I love it. Aside from the issue where I had a slightly worn part, which is to be expected on a gun that's almost a century old, that caused the floor plate to fall out, which issue's corrected now. I love this rifle. I've been looking for one for years now. I've owned several Garands. I've owned a M1A, M14 clone. My dad has one still. And I have a 1903, which is my first U.S. military surplus rifle. But there's something about the knowledge that almost 100 years ago, American doughboys went into the trenches with this giant rifle. There's just something pretty interesting about that. I was in the Air Force, and my rifle I trained with was an M16A2. To say that there is a difference between that rifle and this, it's amazing how we ended up with the M16 when at the turn of the century, or not too, 17 years after the turn of the century, we had this. Just the amazing progress we've made in firearms. But yeah, that's it. Eddystone, model 1917, made in 1918. Who knows? Maybe somebody's great-grandfather that's watching this, or the great-grandfather of someone who's watching this, carried this rifle. Or grandfather in the Second World War. Who knows? But thanks, and hope to see you next time.